Good morning. Welcome to First Parish in Needham. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation of people from many backgrounds and beliefs. We covenant to live out our shared values of the inherent worth and dignity of every person, respecting the earth, and co-creating beloved community. Whoever you are, whoever you love, whatever your background or identity, whatever your age or stage, whether you rolled in or walked, wherever you're participating from, you are welcome here. You can learn all about all the wonderful things that happen at First Parish by going to our website, uuneedham.org, and signing up for our weekly email newsletter, the Bell Notes, or by following us on social media. Our order of service is online too, at the QR code in your pews, and at the website uuneedham.updates.church. Please speak with our ushers, greeters, or Zoom hosts if you have questions or accessibility needs. My name is Marianne McGowan, and I have been a member here at First Parish for about 20 years. This past spring and summer, I was part of a search committee tasked with finding our next director of religious exploration to lead our children's and youth programming. After several months of reading resumes and interviewing candidates, we saw a familiar name come through as an applicant. Someone who had been a beloved member of our community. Someone who arrived here when we were physically shut down by the coronavirus pandemic, and who served as our ministerial intern for those 2 years when everything we did was virtual. Despite this seeming handicap, she was able to forge meaningful relationships with us, both individually and as a congregation, and was ordained right here in this church in June of 2022. She now returns to us as our Minister of Religious Exploration. Please join me in welcoming this morning back to First Parish our dear friend, Reverend Jenna Crawford. Reverend Jenna served as minister of the UU Church in Marblehead for 2 years and is now exploring the path of working with children, youth, and families as the focus of her ministry. We are very excited to accompany her on this journey. While she is serving in an acting and part-time capacity here, Reverend Jenna is also working part-time at Bentley University as their chaplain for inclusion, belonging, and dialogue, helping to launch an interfaith fellowship oriented around bridging differences that divide us. If you haven't already, please say hello or introduce yourself to Reverend Jenna during social hour immediately following the service, either in Parish Hall or on Zoom for those participating virtually. Welcome again to everyone here in the building and online. We are so glad you are here.
As we light our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, we invite you to share in this responsive reading from Euro-American UU minister and activist Reverend Kathleen McTeague. Reverend Jenna and I will gesture to you when it's your turn to say the response, "Come in." Do you want to practice that?
Come in.
Well done. Let's begin. Yeah.
You who are broken-hearted, who woke today with the winds of despair whistling through your mind. Come in.
You who are brave but wounded, limping through life and hurting with every step.
Come in. You who are fearful, who live with shadows hovering over your shoulders. Come in.
This place is sanctuary, and it is for you.
You who are filled with happiness, whose abundance overflows, come in.
You who journey through your world with lightness and grace, who awoke this morning with strength and hope, who have everything to give, come in.
This place is your calling, a riverbank to channel the sweet waters of your life, the place where you are called by the world's need.
Here we offer in love. Here we receive in gratitude. Here we make a circle from the great gifts of breath, attention, and purpose. To all here today, Our opening hymn, We Gather Together, has lyrics written specifically for Thanksgiving by Unitarian Universalist couple Dorothy Kiger-Sengas and Reverend Robert Sengas. It's to a Dutch tune of another popular Thanksgiving hymn. So please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing We Gather Together. The lyrics are in your orders of service on screen and at number 349 in your gray hymnals.
In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the covenant is a set of promises the membership of a congregation strives to honor with one another and out in the world. Whether we participate in our community online or in the building, we strive to live these promises every day. Please say along with me the words of our parish covenant as in your orders of service and on the screen. We gather as a loving community to encourage and comfort one another. We gather as a diverse community to support each other in our search for spiritual truth. We gather as a service community to live our beliefs through action and care for our world.
As we settle into this time of worship on this Sunday before the Thanksgiving holiday, I invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer and reflection. And you can do what you need to do to calm your body and mind and focus on the message of the prayer. But I do have some recommendations in case you're like, how do I do that? Oh, I have ideas. I invite you to grab a fidget or a coloring page from the vestibule, perhaps today's multi-gen service notes printout. You might also find these objects in your home. I invite you to make your body comfortable but alert wherever your body is and however it's feeling today. I invite you to stretch, to wiggle, to release any tension you find in your body from your head down to your toes. I invite you to take deep breaths in and then let all that air out again. I invite you to close your eyes or soften your gaze. Our Thanksgiving prayer comes from Native American Presbyterian minister Reverend Irv Porter. Creator God, from the rising of the sun in the east to its setting in the west, you have blessed us with life, family, and food from creation, and spiritual ways drawing us closer to you. You gave us this land, Turtle Island, to care for, to live in, and to preserve for coming generations. Stop our ears when talk of destroying the land for temporary gain is heard. Teach us to respect the land and all her gifts of life. We are all related, so what happens to any part of creation affects us all. We are reminded that the land holds our ancestors, making it sacred. As we work to end intolerance of people and cultures and to end our tolerance of historic injustice, open our hearts to reflect your image, your peace, and your love to all. Open our spirits to peace and healing with those from all nations. The wind, the sunrise, the sound of water moving, the songs of the birds, the beauty of the butterfly, all these things are where we find you always. Help us to find you in this beauty. For all these blessings and more, our hearts are full of thanks. At this gathering of family and friends before the great feast of blessing, we thank you. Guide us to know your ways with respect. Hear our prayer of thanksgiving. Let it be so. Amen. You know, it's fascinating, the range of stuff people end up leaving at the church. We find bobby pins, reusable water bottles, even people's entire bags. I don't recognize this. Perhaps some of you, I'm gonna just go start rifling through it, and maybe you could help me figure out who it belongs to. Oh, there's some curious stuff in here, I'll tell you what. I don't know. Hi.
Oh dear.
Yes?
I'm afraid that might be mine.
Oh, really?
So that's where I left it. I've been missing this bag for a whole week. I had no idea. Thank you for finding it for me.
You're very welcome. No problem, Reverend Jenna. I did notice, though, there are some very interesting things in here.
So you've looked inside the bag now, have you?
Yeah, and now our fellow first parishioners might be curious what these items are, since I've just talked about them. Can I show them what's in the bag?
I guess that would be okay, but you really went through my bag?
Well, Reverend Jenna, the first thing you need to do when you find something that doesn't belong to you, see, is there a wallet in there with an ID? Then you know who it is. Yours was just buried at the very bottom. And I did find a wallet, but the only thing in there is this little card. What is this?
Oh, that's my Charlie card. That's what I use to be able to take the T to get around Boston. You see, since leaving First Parish 2 years ago, I moved to Malden, which is the northernmost neighborhood in the Boston area that the subway goes to. So I need to get that back from you so I can get around Boston this week.
That makes sense. I don't want you to be stuck on the train forever like poor Charlie. She already told me she doesn't know what that song is, so now she can look it up later. Okay, now that I have your permission for rifling, there looks like this thing, what is this? Oh, it folds so tiny. What is this?
Yeah, that's mine too. That's my raincoat. Aside from the fact that the drought finally cleared with all the rain that we've gotten over the last couple days, one of my favorite things to do on my day off is to go hiking through the Fells Reservation or in New Hampshire or Maine. And you never know what kind of weather you're going to hit on the trail, so it's always good to be prepared.
You know, that's good advice for hiking and for life. But I did notice a certain scent that came out of your bag when I first opened it. Reverend Jenna, is this a partly used head of garlic?
It sure is. Of course, because what else would be with my rain jacket? My partner Ben and I love to cook. I must have been coming home from the grocery store that day, and our rule of thumb for cooking is that however much garlic a recipe calls for, you have to double it.
Oh, I see. All right. That's why it's already partly used. That makes sense. I guess now I know where I'm going to dinner tonight. It seems there's one last thing that you left here, Reverend Jenna. It's very pretty. Ooh, what's this?
Actually, some of you may recognize this item because 2 years ago in June, as Marianne was saying, I was joyfully ordained into UU ministry by this very congregation after completing my internship here. And on my ordination day, in this very sanctuary, First Parish gifted me this beautiful stole, which I still wear and cherish very deeply.
It is indeed a very beautiful stole. We did a great job. I also see there's like a little inscription on the back. Let me take a closer look. It says, "Do others feel loved in your presence? This is the spiritual bottom line," from First Parish in Needham, June 2022.
That's right. That's a quote from Maston Kipp, and I wanted to remind myself that beyond everything else, how much we pray, how much we meditate, how much yoga we do, that the most important thing that we can do as Unitarian Universalists is love each other well and try to make others feel loved in our presence. So the intern committee got that inscribed onto the stole. Very nice.
It's a wonderful choice, and that's right. We, as Unitarian Universalists, put love at the center in our relationships and in our justice work.
You know, before we wrap up, Reverend Katie, I'm happy that I got to share these parts of myself with the congregation, but I also am a little nervous. If I accidentally leave something at the church here again in the future, are you going to go through it during worship in front of everybody?
No. None of us on staff would do that without other people's permission, except maybe as a pre-planned familiar gimmick. And objects can be such a wonderful way to get to know each other, aren't they?
That is true, and it helps my nerves a little bit. And because of that, I want to invite all of the kids and the youth, and even the adults too, as you continue getting to know me. Is there a story or an object that you want to share with me that will help me understand you better? Are there pictures of favorite places or pets that you or a parent would like to email me? I would love to see and learn all of these things. I can't wait to get to know you all better this year at church.
And now not only did you give us a bag to rifle through, but you said I could send you pictures of my pets? Oh, well, that's going to be a full inbox. We can't wait to get to know you better again, too. Welcome back, Reverend Jenna.
Thank you. Here ends our time for all ages. This congregation has been supported by the volunteered time and treasure of its members and friends since its founding in 1711. This is the time in our service when we, the modern stewards of this church, offer what we can to build and sustain the congregation and the world that we envision. For the month of November, we're sharing our collections 50-50 with the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. The UUSC, for short, is the merged social service organization of both the Unitarian and the Universalist Service Committees, both founded during World War II to help those escaping Nazi persecution and to support relief efforts after the war. Today, the UUSC supports justice work through local partners around the world with a special focus on grassroots organizing abroad and legislative advocacy and disaster relief here in the United States. In fact, immediately before coming on staff at First Parish for the months of October and early November, I had the privilege of temping for UUSC in their Congregational Relations Department. And the work that I witnessed them doing, for instance, in supporting congregations as they host and accompany individuals and families seeking asylum, or in the tangible support they've offered to trans and gender nonconforming folks in the weeks after the election, has truly made me proud to be a Unitarian Universalist. So I hope that you will join me in supporting UUSC with a donation today. To donate to today's offering, you can use one of 3 different methods as described in your orders of service. You can use our Text to Give program through the number 73256. You can donate through the website uuneedham.org, or drop a check or cash into the offering plate, or mail a check to First Parish. Whichever way you donate, please remember to specify whether your donation is meant for the plate collection or for your annual pledge. And if this is one of your first visits to First Parish, we also encourage you to fill out a yellow card in your pew back to drop in the collection plate or to fill out our online visitors form at uuneedham.updates.church. And many thanks to Leslie Ross Degnan for our beautiful flowers this morning, dedicated to the abundance in all of our lives and wishing everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for everything you are able to give to help support and sustain this congregation and the vital work of our community partners. May the ushers please come forward.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Yeah, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. And though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Yeah, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. Oh, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Yeah, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Yeah, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. When the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me. Shine until tomorrow, let it be. I wake up to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Yeah, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Yeah, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be.
Thank you so much, Chris. Our story today is both hard and beautiful, both disturbing and hopeful. At First Parish, we strive to share true and real stories, personal, global, historical, even though sometimes those stories are difficult to hear. You're welcome to talk with me and Reverend Jenna at social hour or schedule a time with us if you have questions or concerns about today's story. We hope that the story will offer everyone the opportunity to learn, reflect, grow in compassion, and act so that stories like this don't happen ever again.
In the book When We Were Alone, written by Cree author and editor David Robertson and illustrated by Cree Métis artist and activist Julie Flett, we meet a Cree child, her grandmother, and her great-uncle. The Cree people primarily live and have lived in Canada, but also in what is now the northern United States, including in present-day Montana. In our story, we'll hear some upsetting stories about the grandmother's childhood, and we'll hear about the grandmother's resilience and resistance, even as a child.
In both Canada and the United States, Indigenous children were often taken from their families by the government or local church leaders and sent to what were called Indian residential schools. The American and Canadian government's goal was to force the Native children to give up their heritage and behave more like Europeans. In 1978, it did become illegal in the United States for the government to forcibly take Indigenous children from their families, but many Indigenous adults still alive today spent their childhoods at residential schools.
As we tell the story, we'll offer you some wondering and feeling questions that you can think about in your minds and hearts. Questions like, what would it be like to go to school far away from home? How would you feel being separated from your family? So let's begin.
Today, I helped my kokom in her flower garden. She always wears colorful clothes. It's like she's dressed in rainbows. When she bent down to prune some of the flowers, I couldn't even see her because she blended in with them. She was like a chameleon. Nokom, why do you wear so many colors?
Well, Nusism, when I was your age at home in my community, my friends and I wore many different colors. But at the school that I went to, far away from home, they gave us different clothes to wear. All the children were dressed the same, and our clothes were not colorful at all. We all mixed together like storm clouds.
Why did you have to dress like that?
They didn't like that we wore such beautiful colors. They wanted us to look like everybody else. But sometimes, in the fall, when we were alone, and the leaves had turned to their warm autumn hues, we would roll around on the ground. We would pile the leaves over the clothes they had given us, and we would be colorful again. And this made us happy. Now I always wear the most beautiful colors.
Here are our wondering and feeling questions. When have you been asked to wear a uniform? How did it feel to wear that uniform? After I helped with the flowers, we went over to the back gate. There were vines covering the gate, and they reached all the way to the ground. When my kokom turned to fix the latch, I saw that her braid hung almost as low as the vines. It was like she had a tail. Nokom, why do you wear your hair so long?
Well, Nusism, when I was your age at home in my community, my friends and I grew our hair long, just like our people have always done. It made us feel strong and proud. But at the school I went to, far away from home, they cut off all our hair. Our strands of hair mixed together on the ground like blades of dead grass.
Why did you have to wear your hair like that?
They didn't like that we were proud. They wanted us to be like everybody else. But sometimes, in the spring, when we were alone and the grass had grown so long and thick in the field, we would pick the blades from the ground. We would braid them into the short hair they had given us, and we would have long hair again. and this made us happy. Now I always wear my hair very long.
Have you ever had to cut your hair when you didn't want to? How would that feel? After my Kokom had fixed the latch, I followed her to the birdhouse. There was a bird flying through the air like a jingle dress dancer. She fed the bird and whispered,
Na penesis machiso ta masikatian ta maskayasian.
"Here, little bird, eat, so you will get big and strong." Her words sounded like a poem. Nokom, why do you speak in Cree?
Well, Nusism, when I was your age at home in my community, my friends and I always spoke our language. But at the school that I went to, far away from home, they would not let us speak our words. All the children used their strange words, and we did not understand them at all. Our voices blended together like a flock of crows.
Why did you have to talk in their language?
They didn't like that we spoke our own language. They wanted us to talk like everybody else. But sometimes, in the summer, when we were alone and our teachers were not anywhere around the place we were, we would whisper to each other in Cree. We would say all the words we weren't allowed to say so that we would not forget them. And this made us happy. So now I always speak my language.
Have you ever been somewhere that you did not speak the same language as other people there? And what would it be like if you were not allowed to use your own words to talk? After our gardening work was done, I sat with my Kokom in the backyard. Her brother came over and sat with us. He comes over all the time. We drank tea and ate bannock. The tea was hot and sweet, and the bannock was moist and warm and melted in my mouth. My Kokom and my uncle talked and laughed like children. Nokom, why do you and Nokomis spend so much time together?
Well, Nusism, when we were your age at home in our community, being with family was the most important thing. We played with each other, did chores together, and shared everything. But at the school that I went to, far away from home, they would not let us be together. My brother and I were separated like day and night.
Why were you and Nokomis separated?
They didn't like when we were with family because when we were together, we thought too much of home. But sometimes, in the winter, when we were alone and we were sure that nobody could see us, we would find each other. We would take off our mitts, and in the crisp, cold air, we would hold hands so that we could be with each other. And this made us happy.
If you were in their situation, do you think you would break the rules the way Nokom and Nokomis did? Why might someone follow a mean rule like this?
Now I am always with my family.
How would it feel to be reunited with family? Here ends our story.
This book, When We Were Alone, paints a vivid picture of what it was like to live under anti-Indigenous colonial oppression at these residential boarding schools across the United States and parts of Canada. Today, Reverend Katie and I wanted to explore two questions with you all coming out of this story. First, given these painful truths, given what we know about the United States' long and ugly legacy of separating people from their culture, lands, and families, and this goes for Black and Indigenous people of color, This goes for immigrants who have been forced to assimilate, and for trans and queer folks, and so on, and so on. For the ways in which we are complicit in that separation, how do we repair? How do we apologize, not just with words, but with actions, and move forward to create a better world for us all? And the second question, looking inward, for the parts of us that have been fragmented, torn, or broken apart by culture. How do we begin to glue together that which has been broken? How do we recall the parts of us that have been silenced or long forgotten? Because under racial capitalism, cis heterosupremacy, patriarchy, and colonialism, there is always a splintering of self. Reverend Katie will be focusing on the first question, and I will focus on the second. To do so, I'll draw on the wisdom of Black, Indigenous people of color, and other people living at the margins whose legacies offer us wisdom and insight. So, how do we begin to heal? Healing, I learned from this storybook and from other Indigenous American and Canadian writers like Leanne Simpson, David Truer, and Louise Erdrich, is both a nonlinear and a communal project that requires reclaiming old traditions and practices, telling the truth, and listening deeply. Healing, according to excerpts from A Spell for Grief by the Black activist Adrienne Marie Brown, might include, she writes, adequate tears twisting up directly from the heart and wrung out across the vocal cords until only a gasp remains. At least an hour a day spent staring at the truth in numb silence. An absence of theory, flight as necessary, poetry, your own and others, courage to say what has happened, however strangling the words are, and space to not say a single word. A walk in the world, all that gravity with breath and heartbeat in your eyes, and just a glimpse of tomorrow, either in the face of an innocent or the realization of a dream, end quote. Healing, I've learned from the Black grief doula Gina Breedlove, means going slow. Healing is an embodied practice and involves all the parts of our bodies where grief sometimes gets lodged: our heart, our gut, our pelvic floor, our skin. And it requires us to ask of each other and ourselves what we need over and over again. Healing involves questioning our own internalized colonialism of all kinds so that we can show up as sanctuaries for self and other. As people, others can be whole and non-fragmented with. And healing also means never demanding this of each other. Healing means we get to choose when and how and with whom. Healing is neither defensive nor presumptuous nor brittle. And as we move on to talk about repairing relationships, we can imagine that that too is a way we can heal our own selves. The Black somatics teacher Prentice Hemphill once said, "Some things seem too big to be felt alone because they are." It's not practical to imagine that we can feel the weight of historical trauma as one person. We need spaces where our grief can swell, where feeling for feeling's sake can reconstitute us, where our empathy for one another can build. Put another way is one more quote, one that I'll end with, by the Black scholar Bell Hooks. Rarely, if ever, are any of us healed in isolation. Healing is an act of communion. May it be so.
In the summer, after I'd lived and worked with the Unitarian Union of Northeast India, and before I entered seminary across the river at Harvard Divinity School, I participated in the National Unitarian Universalist Association General Assembly, the annual gathering, that time, in Salt Lake City, Utah. There was plenty I was prepared and excited for that week, connecting with other UUs and visiting tourist sites with my mom. But I was not expecting to hear during the opening worship service our then denominational president, Black UU minister, Reverend Dr. Bill Sinkford, for him to issue a public formal apology to two tribal members of the Northern Ute indigenous tribe, Forrest Kutch and Clifford Duncan. I was surprised because I didn't know the story, that in 1870, the American Unitarian Association had accepted responsibility as agents of the United States federal government to civilize the Northern Ute people. This included a failed attempt at a residential school for Ute children in Colorado, which came after an earlier mission residential school from the Unitarians for Chippewa and Ojibwe children, and which was followed by the American Unitarian Association founding and supporting a residential school for Crow children for a decade. I didn't grow up with books like When We Were Alone. This was totally new information for me. And honestly, I did not want to know those stories. They didn't make me feel very proud of being a Unitarian Universalist until I considered that to live by our values, we have to tell the truth and be open to transformation, reconciliation, neither of which are possible if we cling to lies or omissions. Something Unitarian Universalists strive to focus on near the national Thanksgiving holiday is remembering accurately the harm European immigrants, including Unitarian Universalists, including the Puritan founders of First Parish in Needham, what they have done to Indigenous Americans, intentionally and unintentionally. And though Reverend Bill Sinkford did not do those harmful things to the Ute people, he and we are the ones still here to tell the truth, to apologize, and to make amends. So we wonder, how do we respond to this harm done by our Unitarian Universalist spiritual ancestors? How does one community repair a relationship with another community? There are a handful of essential elements to an apology. Showing that you understand what happened to cause the other person harm, acknowledging that regardless of your intention, you accept responsibility for the harmful impact, and promising and living out the intention to not repeat the harm. We can reflect on Reverend Sinkford's exact apology to the Ute people. He said, "The Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations offers our heartfelt apology. We participated, however ineptly, in a process that stole your land and forced a foreign way of life on you. We ask for your forgiveness, and we promise to stand with you as you chart your way forward." Since 2009, our denomination has tried to make good on that promise to support the Ute people and other Indigenous peoples charting their way forward, learning and acknowledging the real history of our denominations and individual congregations' relationships with local Indigenous peoples, supporting decolonizing holidays and legislation, and gathering in solidarity and partnership with Indigenous peoples who are historically connected with the land on which our congregations are built. First parishioners have been taking part in this kind of work too. Each Sunday we have in our orders of service and at the end on screen our land acknowledgement recognizing the Massachusetts and Pawtucket peoples who have historically and today stewarded the land on which our church stands. We've also been in partnership with the Needham History Center, the Natick Praying Indians, and the Massachusetts Indigenous Legislative Agenda. These are things we can do to move forward. And so may we work to repair what feels broken in ourselves, in our relationships, and between communities, striving for beloved community in which all people are understood, cared for, and can thrive. May it be so. Amen. As Dara and I have shared during this theme month on repair, if we feel upset, sad, mad, disappointed, afraid, we can process and release those feelings from what happened in our minds and hearts by reflecting on and learning from what happened in our minds and hearts, and also taking action with our bodies. Emotions come from and are felt by our bodies and then interpreted by our minds, so processing our feelings through minds and bodies is very helpful. So however you might be feeling today with this Sunday service, with the approaching Thanksgiving holiday, with national or international politics and violence, with personal joys and concerns, however you are feeling today, you are welcome to participate in a ritual of sorrow, hope, and apology. You may have already noticed the 3 ritual stations at the bottom of the chancel, one with water and stones in front of the candles box, one with water and leaves in front of the lectern, one with bowls of puzzle pieces in front of the pulpit. Reverend Jenna and I invite one and all to participate in this ritual of sinking a sorrow, floating a hope, and puzzling an apology. And if you're participating online, we recommend you take a moment to think about if you have a bowl, water, an object that sinks, an object that floats, and a way to write down some important words for puzzle piecing an apology together.
At the table for sinking a sorrow, you are welcome to take a small stone, hold it tight in your hand, maybe next to your heart. Reflect for a moment on your sorrow, whether it's brokenness or hurt you feel in yourself, for a loved one, or for the world, and then gently drop the stone into the water dish to release the sorrow to be held by your faith community.
And before Reverend Jenna explains our next station, I will sink a sorrow on behalf of all of us for our lifelong member, Laura Brown, who, after a tough few months of health concerns, died peacefully yesterday afternoon. It was quite a surprise. She was visited by everyone in her family. She's visited by her ministers and her friends in the Betty's Singers. Please hold Laura and her family in your hearts and prayers.
At our table for floating a hope, you're invited to take a leaf and hold it gently as you bring to mind the hopes that you have for repaired relationships. Those might be personal, communal, or worldwide. And then imagine what right relationship and beloved community might look like, personally, communally, and globally. And then you can float your hope, your leaf, on the surface of the water bowl to be affirmed by your faith community.
These 2 parts of the ritual we're borrowing from my dear friend, Brandeis's Christian chaplain, Carl LeClaire, And we've added puzzling and apology, drawing with respect from the ancient Hawaiian practice of repairing relationship called ho'oponopono. As Mormon Hawaiian blogger Lealehoa Humphreys describes, when two people or groups have a disagreement or huhu, hard feelings, they would meet together for a session of ho'oponopono with a facilitator or mediator. It has been adapted in several different ways, including sending positive energy to others and to oneself. Humphreys describes a modern method for this practice that one can do alone. She writes, think of the person who you feel resentment toward or have pilakia, troubles with. This could even be yourself. Then, either verbally or mentally, you could say these lines: hello, name. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. These are the traditional statements of ho'oponopono.
At our puzzle and apology table, you'll find bowls with puzzle pieces that have those 4 phrases written on top of them. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. If you come to this ritual station, you can build your puzzle right here while thinking of the person with whom you are having struggles, and you are welcome to take the puzzle pieces home with you for future practice if you would like. In a minute, Chris will begin to play some music for us, and then you all will be welcome to come forward, line up, and participate in 1, 2, or all 3 of these embodied rituals. You can also remain in your seat and instead take this time for quiet meditation and reflection. It is up to you.
So I will ring our singing bowl, so we might breathe deeply, consider where we might want to go or not at all. And then, or go get our supplies from elsewhere in our home. And then I will invite you all here in the building to come forward, line up at the stations. Chris will offer music until everyone has had the opportunity to sink a sorrow, float a hope, and puzzle an apology. Please now come forward.
Thank you so much for participating in our ritual this morning. We hope that you feel that your sorrows are supported, your hopes are affirmed, and that your forgiveness and repair journey has begun. To close, we offer you this message and blessing from Choctaw elder and retired Episcopal Bishop, Reverend Stephen Charleston. In the tradition of Native America, we speak not only of the good news, but of the good medicine. This medicine is the power of the sacred to help heal our lives, to put right whatever may be wrong for us. It is the spiritual force of love. Today, I pray that my ancestors may share their good medicine with each of you. I pray that the Spirit, the source of all good medicine, may release its authority into your life and through you pass its healing to touch those you love. May it be so, and amen.
Amen. Our closing hymn is one I felt we absolutely had to do during our theme month on repair, and when we know we have tough but worthy work ahead. Singer-songwriters Pete Seeger and Lee Hayes wrote If I Had a Hammer in the late 1940s to support progressive American political ideas. Our wonderful assistant music director, Chris, has offered us updated lyrics to be inclusive of all our neighbors. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing If I Had a Hammer. The lyrics are in your orders of service and on screen.
Good morning. As we end the near end of our service, let me highlight for you some of what's coming up soon here at First Parish. All are welcome at our social hour after the postlude, both online and on site. If you're on site and a relative newcomer and you want long-timers to come and chat with you, please take one of the red mugs at social hour. Not only are the red mugs easy to spot, they're also some of the largest coffee mugs we have. You can find details about all of our upcoming events by subscribing to our e-newsletter, the Bell Notes, which you can also find on our online order of service at uuneedham.updates.church. Today we have the Braver Angels Workshop Series, Bridging Partisanship, Strengthening Our Democratic Republic at 1 o'clock. Tonight, it's at 4? So it's on the Patriots. Just kidding, it's at 4 to avoid the Patriots game. Tonight we have our Sunday night book club group at 7:30, and there is no Vespers this week. Creative Escapes is on Friday at 10:30. We have Join UU Mass Action at the National Day of Mourning Thursday at the 28th at noon at Coles Hill, which is above Plymouth Rock, and it will be live streamed to Zoom. The Caregiver Support Group is next Sunday, December 1st at 1 p.m. via Zoom, and UU Worship at North Hill is December 4th at 10:30. Family Friday Fun Night is also coming up on Friday, December 6th. We always extinguish our chalice with words promising to carry its flame in our hearts until we are together again, no matter how long it is until we are all together again. Please join me from home or here in the building in saying those words written by UU Minister Reverend Elizabeth Sell Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, nor the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
As we close our service today, take these instructions from former U.S. Poet Laureate and Muskogee author and musician Joy Harjo with you as a benediction. Put down that bag of potato chips, that white bread, the bottle of pop. Turn off that cell phone, computer, and remote control. Open the door and then close it behind you. Take a breath offered by the friendly winds. Give it back with gratitude. Acknowledge this earth who has cared for you since you were a dream. Let your moccasin feet take you to the encampment of the guardians who have known you before time, who will be there after time. Let the earth stabilize your post-colonial insecure jitters. Be respectful of the small insects, birds, and animal people who accompany you. Ask their forgiveness for the harm we humans have brought down upon them. Don't worry. The journey might take you a few hours, a day, a few years, 100, 1,000, or even more. Ask for forgiveness and welcome your spirit back from its wandering. It may return in pieces and tatters. Gather them together. They will be happy to be found after being lost for so long. And now you can have a party. Then you must do this. Help the next person find their way through the shadow. Our service begins when our service ends. Blessed be, and amen.